boom, boom. And we are off. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Again, we're back. Saturday, August 2nd, training camp practice number 9. As always, there were a lot of noteworthy happenings on the practice field during practice. Unfortunately, that's not where the news was made today, as Chris Perkins and I are going to dive right into it. Chris Perkins from the South Florida Sun Sentinel, as if you didn't know that already. Perk, long time no see.
Yeah, man. Busy day. Busy day out at Dolphins camp today.
Everything pretty much toward the end.
Yeah.
And I guess we probably should start with the most noteworthy news. This came from a report from good friend Cameron Wolf of the NFL Network, as he was doing interviews or doing a practice recap from Miami Gardens on Saturday, indicating that Austin Jackson is going to miss, quote unquote, weeks with a lower extremity injury, with the hope that he'll be ready for week 1 against the Indianapolis Colts on September 7th. And it's your basic, here we go again. And I should mention that this comes on the day where Aaron Brewer, the starting center, practices for the first time. So you got the good news happening there, and then boom, the bad news with Austin Jackson. I will tell you, I noticed Jackson getting up slowly after a play late in practice on Friday, which stuck in my mind as situation to monitor. And here we are. Not good news for a team with one of its most significant question marks being the depth on the offensive line.
Yeah, and this is the man who protects Tua's blind side. This is the man who missed the second part of the season last year with a knee injury. And so it's not good. It's not good. And you know, it also means that most likely you are not going to have your starting offensive line intact for joint practices against Chicago and Detroit at the very least, perhaps Jacksonville, right? If there's a question about whether he's going to be ready for the opener on September 7th. So you're already on plan B. You thought you were going to be on plan A. As you said, Aaron Brewer just practiced for the first time today, and you thought you were going to have the starting 5 together, but no, you were not going to have them together. And, you know, look, we've talked about the reserve offensive linemen. The reserve offensive tackles have not looked very good. And protecting Tua's blind side, that is worrisome, because if you're an opponent, you're probably going to load up on Tua's blind side as opposed to going against an apparent wall on the left side with Patrick Paul. You're going to attack the right side, the blind side, and you're going to load up over there. And good luck to whoever's over there: Ryan Hayes, Larry Borum, Jackson Carman, Jaelan McKenzie. I've been botching his name. It's some tough sledding. You feel really bad for Austin Jackson, one of the good guys on the team, but Tua, it might be a duck and cover drill for a few weeks.
Yeah, and this is something that's fair, since I know there are a couple of other Dolphin players who get banged by Dolphin fans for being injury prone and all that. And unfortunately, this is becoming a recurring occurrence with Austin, who's a really good dude. But 2022, when McManiel got here, he played 2 games because he had a bad ankle injury in the opener against the Patriots, came back for 1 game, another or the same ankle, I think, issue again. Then last year, as you mentioned, after 8 games, he's out on IR with an injury, and this starts like this. It's not ideal. I'm going to throw another name here into the mix, listed as a tackle on the roster and worked at tackle for the first time in camp on Saturday, that being Keon Smith.
Yeah.
And this is a guy who the Dolphins have talked up before. Chris Greer, in fact, made it a point to volunteer to us that teams had called him to ask about him and a trade possibility. Dolphins not wanting to do that, wanting to hang on to him. Last year, he missed the entire season because of a knee injury in the preseason opener. Right now, to me, he's a better option than either Ryan Hayes or Larry Borum, the free agent acquisition from the Chicago Bears. And is it possible? Because, mind you, again, this is the first time today we saw him at tackle. Could it be correlated to the development with Austin Jackson, which, mind you, the Dolphins already knew this when they practiced on Saturday. So maybe it's not a coincidence that, let's let's move Keon at tackle. He might be more needed there than he was at guard. I think right now of those three, I think that would be the most ideal option. And for those wondering, well, what about veteran free agents on the market? There are some fairly big name interior offensive linemen. Good luck finding me an appealing name at tackle.
Yeah, and Keon Smith, previously he was at right guard, alternating with James Daniels when, as James Daniels was getting up to speed, and I had seen him at left tackle. And so, we'll see if, what things look like for him at right tackle. But Keon is a guy who missed all of last season with a knee injury. And so he's kind of coming back. If you guys have been out to practice, you notice he's got that big brace on his left knee, Poop, is it? On his left leg. I think it's the left, but it's either the left or the right. How about that?
It's one of those two, yeah.
Right, it's one of those two. But Keon I say this all the time, and I know nobody cares. Nice guy, but I don't know if he can play. Quite honestly, today was his best day. He had kind of been struggling out there a little bit, as most of the backup offensive linemen had been doing. So we'll see what his future holds as far as time at right tackle and whether he can hold up to the Bradley Chubb, Jaelan Phillips, Chop Robinson edge rushing. But this is a big challenge for Chris Greer, for Butch Berry, the offensive line coach, everybody involved. Even when you go to Bobby Slowick, senior pass game coordinator, Frank Smith, offensive coordinator, Mike McDaniel, the offensive architect. I don't know how you scheme around this.
Oh, I'm sure they have schemed behind a less than ideal offensive line before. Even though you and I both agree it's not been the end all be all, the offensive line so bad they can't do anything offensively, because that's BS. Because in 2022 and 2023 they certainly were able to accomplish things offensively. And even at times last year, I didn't hear anybody complaining about the offensive line when they were rolling up against New England or Las Vegas. So again, it's very selective to be dumping on the offensive line. That again is not ideal to be losing Austin Jackson. I see still no reason whatsoever to be impressed or optimistic about either Larry Borum or Ryan Hayes as backup offensive linemen. If we're going to talk about the offensive line, no, let's move on first to the other, what appeared to be potentially a significant situation, which based on the Jaelan Phillips tweet after practice, false alarm, no big deal. Because he tweeted basically it was just a leg whip. Y'all need to chill. But what we observed during practice at one point, they're an 11 on 11. I'm looking to the right, and he's on the ground, like on his back. And he's got trainers coming over. They're looking at his left knee. Then he's standing up, kind of flexing the knee a little bit. Then he does a little bit of a jog. This is about halfway through practice. Does a little bit of a jog, and he kind of has a look on his face like, not great. Then he walks between the two fields, eventually walks inside the Baptist Health Training Complex with a trainer, walking very gingerly, which is why if we're at practice, it was like, oh, no, not again, not Jaelan, not again. And then he put out the tweet, which certainly is very reassuring, both on a personal level for the dude, because, man, 2023 Achilles tendon tear, last year torn ACL in a contract year, because right now he's playing on the fifth-year option of 13.3. So by all indications, the Dolphins and Phillips dodged a bullet here.
Yeah, and I'll add this, that when Jaelan was on his back, he got up after the trainers looked at him and kind of gave a thumbs up to the crowd. And you heard a cheer from the crowd. Then he was talking casually with Bradley Chubb and Zach Sealer. He kind of, like you said, he put some pressure on it. He jogged on it. But as he was leaving, he's walking across the field with the team personnel, with the trainer. They stopped halfway, and the trainer put his hands on Jaelan's left knee. And so, you're just wondering, what is the severity here? What are we dealing with? And it's a, Jaelan tweeted out, like you said, it's a bruise. And so I'm guessing they will still get an X-ray and or an MRI just to make sure there's no structural damage. But it seems as though they have dodged a bullet with that one. And like you say, contract year, he's playing on that 5th-year option. Already seeing Kader Kohu go out on the contract year. We mentioned yesterday James Daniels went out last season on the contract year after playing 4 games. Then he blows out his Achilles with Pittsburgh. On a human level, I know these guys make millions of dollars, and they're not hurting for money, but you just don't want to see that happen to anybody. So good for Jaelan, good for the Dolphins so far. We think, we hope.
No, correct. I guess a good sign also, we should point out that generally speaking, if there's a very quick indication that, it's not good, more often than not, this would happen. I think it happened with Cater and Ashton Davis, is you're going to have teammates and a coach or two go over and do the consoling, comforting type of thing. That never happened with Jaelan. So I guess maybe that could have been a telltale sign that it was never anything serious all along. So certainly we hope that is indeed the case. Again, based on the tweet by Phillips, that's the case. D. Eskridge, last play of practice, catches a slant or pass breakup on a slant and immediately reaches for the right hamstring. Not supposed to speculate on body parts, but that's exactly what he did. Yeah. And then the horn sounded to signify the end of practice, whether they were going to, how many more plays they had left, or it was going to be the end of practice at that time. Regardless, the horn sounded to signify the end of practice. Cart came off. I wouldn't necessarily equate cart coming off to severity of injury because, again, practice was over. It's really a big deal to bring the cart over to make it more comfortable to get off. Clearly, it's like a hamstring injury. We speak to Mike McDaniel before practice on Sunday, perhaps to have some sort of indication of whether we're looking at days or maybe weeks for D. Eskridge, who's a guy who, to me, was making quite the push to earn one of those roster spots at wide receiver, and he may make a decision easier by being unavailable if the injury turns out to be a matter of several weeks.
Yeah, and getting off of the personal thing for D. Eskridge that, you feel bad for him, the Dolphins are really, really searching for a number 3 wide receiver. Not a number 3 receiver, because that could be Devon Achane, as it was I guess he was number 4 last year, really, with the 78 reception. That's kind of a different. I'll entertain that once he takes the field. Well, man. I'm just saying the guy hasn't taken the field yet. So
Burke is like Darren Waller. Talk to the hands.
No, I'm saying Darren Waller report for duty. Come on. But anyway, with Eskridge, look, Malik Washington has kind of flashed. Taj Washington has kind of flashed. You mentioned Anthony Armstrong, right? Andrew, yes, that you kind of like what he's been doing, yeah. But I haven't seen really anybody make a strong push. I think D. Eskridge has been good, but for that number 3 wide receiver, whether it's NWI is a guy who, even as a specialist, as a red zone specialist, we haven't seen him emerge. So whether you're talking about a number 3 receiver behind Tyreek and Waddle, or a slot receiver, even a specialist like with D. Eskridge, we haven't seen anybody really take charge of that position. So unfortunate for D and unfortunate for the Dolphins, but somebody has got to emerge for that role.
You forgot Theo Weiss Jr.
Yes. Quinn Ewers. Yes, Quinn Ewers guy.
Yep, absolutely. And again, there's something with that kid. And it wouldn't surprise me if he made the 53. To me, I'm still waiting to see stuff from Malik Washington. All the plays I've seen Malik Washington make in training camp so far have been blocking.
Yeah.
Which is, and he's a smallish guy. I haven't seen him be involved in the passing game. Yeah, he had one play today where he basically pushed away Bradley Chubb as he overran the play off the snap, and that created a really nice seam for Devon Achane to go outside, or maybe Jaelan, one of the running backs. But as far as catching the ball, the guys who have caught the most balls beyond Tyreek and Waddle. Waddle by far has been, the guy with the most volume. Yeah. I would think have been Eskridge and the Owies. Okay, the other injury notes, and no, it's not about injuries, but again, practice, there's going to be a lot of good plays. We are always going to recap what happens in practice. but always keep in perspective. Again, it's practice. The practice plays to me at this point of the season, for me at least, the injuries are more significant if they're potentially could impact what the roster is going to look like or what the team's going to look like down the stretch, which is why we tend to lead with that as opposed to Quinn Ewers had a great pass to Tanner Connor in practice. And by the way, Quinn Ewers, clearly the best quarterback, the most productive quarterback on the field on Saturday. He's still not moving up to number 2. Anyway, the other injury notes, Cam Smith didn't practice.
Yeah.
And this is where the arrows are being slung. Cam Smith is the boss and all that. Cut the kid some slack. Okay. I have not necessarily been highly complimentary of his work, but right now, by the way, he wore a compression sleeve around his right leg the past 2 practices.
Yep.
Today was out doing stuff with the trainer on the side. I mean, give the kid a chance. And again, he might not pan out, but let's not. He didn't practice. He's a bum. I mean, seriously, no, not fair. Jason Marshall Jr., the rookie 5th-round pick from Florida, saw him very early in practice, and then he was gone. He was working with a trainer on the side as well. Don't know as far as the significance of that. We mentioned Darren Waller remains on PUP. Lee Meikenberg remains on PUP. Saw him on the stationary bike on Saturday. And Ifeatu Melifonwu remains on NFI. Not necessarily any movement there. Isaiah Johnson was back at practice, the cornerback, who still has something there.
Mo Kamara and Jalen McKenzie came back to practice.
They did, but I think as we mentioned in the podcast on Friday, those probably were more heat-related issues. Sorry, don't mean to speculate, but
that's exactly what you just did.
But, thanks for calling me out, Park. That's what it smelled like. So, and then today I should mention Matthew Butler had himself a very, very good day.
Yep.
The defensive tackle claimed off waivers from the Raiders. At one point, went down after a play and immediately went like this. And yeah, I don't want to speculate, but he probably got poked in the eye. So there, I did it.
There you go. See, don't say I don't want to speculate. Just say it looked like he got poked in the eye. Yeah. Then you're not breaking any rules. You're just making an observation.
That's what it appeared like, because he went to the side and came back in practice. Either that or he had a contact that really went off kilter and really, really bothered his eye. It's one of those two. So
yeah, I know that contact thing. That can mess you up. Yeah, so.
Oh, I'm a contact wearer here. I'm blind as a bat if I don't have my contact lenses. But I don't know if I've ever gone like he did. So I'm gonna vote poked in the eye. Any of those of any significance to Cam Smith? Again, Cam Smith's a tough one because if we're again, as much as I want people to be fair with him, the truth is if we base things on performance only, right now to me he's not a guy who gets a spot on the 53. But the fact I'm sorry, just finish my point real quick. Yep. The fact that he's a second-round pick from just 2 years ago, yes, that buys him some leeway. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, his body of work speaks for itself. I don't take up for Cam Smith anymore. His body of work is out there. I just try to be respectful and not dog somebody. But we know what the guy is about on the field, right? We've seen it. So it's on him. It's on him to change the narrative. Two defensive coordinators. You're a second-round pick on a team that is desperately looking for starting cornerbacks, and you haven't made a move yet. Your body of work speaks for it.
Yeah, and speaking of cornerbacks, I want to address this, get your thoughts on this, because I was asked this question in a mailbag that occurred on Miami Dolphins on SI.com. And being the very poor salesman that I am, I haven't even mentioned the website yet, and we're 19 minutes in. Please check out the written content, all free, Miami Dolphins on SI.com. And right, I get the fingers wrong all the time. And check out my man Perk's fine written content at sunsentinel.com and his Dolphins deep dive with Perk, which I'm going to guess is back on a weekly schedule now that training camp is in full swing.
I wouldn't assume.
Or not. Erase.
There's some personnel issues at the Sun Sentinel, so yeah. Okay. But we'll let you know when the next one is coming on.
Okay, sorry, didn't mean to.
No, all good. You put our business out there on the street. That's fine. There's some personnel issues. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, I was asked a question in the mailbag, like right now would be my starting cornerbacks, and this was my answer. And I want you to opine after I'm done. I will give you my quick rationale. And my answer was right now, it would be Storm Duck and it would be Kendall Sheffield. And somebody came at me like, Kendall Sheffield, why wouldn't you go Jack Jones? The reason I wouldn't go Jack Jones is Jack Jones has a higher ceiling, will probably give you more big plays, but on offense as well as on defense. I think he's got the potential to get some interceptions because he's a ball hawk and he's got the athletic ability. Kendall Sheffield, to me, is going to be way more consistent, may not get the interceptions. He also won't be as prone to giving up the big play. And my very strong feeling is that Anthony Weaver would prefer having somebody dependable who we can count on and more predictable as opposed to somebody with a very wide variance of results from play to play. Bert?
I would say I probably trust Jack Jones more, but Jack Jones is so new that I don't know that he knows what he's doing out there at this point. And I would say the same thing for Mike Hilton as a slot. I think on September 7th, I think Jack Jones will be the starter. Okay. If they were playing tomorrow, probably Kendall Sheffield. But I just, man, aside from Storm Duck, I just haven't seen anybody that's really caught my attention for any reason out there when we said this before, we've seen good coverage from some of these corners, but we haven't seen them making plays, passes broken up, passes deflected, interceptions. You just don't see many plays made out there. So, it's give it time. There's still 5 weeks until the opener, but man, you would just like to see some sign that somebody is on the rise. Right now, it's just a bunch of guys who have just kind of flatlined. I just, aside from Storm Duck, I just don't see much excitement out there at the cornerback position.
Okay, so your vote is Jack Jones minus Kendall Sheffield. So I take it you want to be wrong. So that's cool. Okay, no problem.
September 7th, baby. September 7th.
We shall see. Me speaking of Jack Jones, should mention that at one point during practice he had his left knee taped.
Yeah.
But he continued practicing. So we're just trying to be thorough over here. Okay, what we saw at practice, and by the way, I should mention Isaiah Johnson had a very nice play in coverage. Don't ask me who the wide receiver was. I don't remember. That's one play that stood out. And it started with the one-on-one competitive drills, which were wide receivers against DBs, tight ends, running backs against linebackers, and then the offensive linemen against the pass rushers. Because the passing thing and coverage favors the offense so much because you have to cover half the field, I tend to just watch the O-lineman against the edge rushers. And again, the thing that stood out is Patrick Paul just basically swallowing every pass rusher is coming his way. I mean, it's almost a master class in one-on-one pass protecting. It's almost to the point where, like, man, are the defensive coaches telling the pass rushers to make Patrick Paul look good? Because if that's what they're doing a fabulous job. And that includes Bradley Chubb, Chop Robinson, Derek McClendon came at him, and it's like they're not remotely, getting close.
Yeah. I like what we've seen from Jonas Avainaya. We saw a couple of good reps between him and Kenneth Grant. He stonewalled Kenneth Grant one time. Kenneth Grant shoved him down on his backside on another rep, but the pass probably would have been delivered by then. And also, he went straight back. I don't know. He probably would have had to reach out to his left, Kenneth Grant, I'm talking about, to grab the quarterback's jersey. So Jonah did a good job, but that was a good rep. I keep seeing good things from Jonah. I'm excited about him. As excited as I am about that defensive front seven, but I got to say something for later. I know you're rolling your eyes. You're rolling your eyes on that front seven.
This is Perk with the front seven. Hold on, here we go.
I like what I'm saying.
I know. I asked you today when's the date? I hope I'm invited to the wedding.
I've proposed. They haven't given me an answer yet, though. They got me on hold. Yeah, they got me on hold.
And in those drills you see, and this is a one-on-one drill, and it's certainly not the end-all be-all, but you see the limitation of some of the backup offensive linemen, and you see an old pro like James Daniels. I haven't seen him beat on one of those yet. And then you see Jaelan Phillips from the edge before he won. By the way, Jaelan Phillips left practice on a day where he was wearing the orange jersey.
Yeah.
And props to Jaelan for the musical selections at the start with Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit, and at a Black Sabbath song as well. Went downhill after that, partner. Sorry, but again, I'm the old dude here, so my musical taste is fairly confined. I'm not feeling like a lot of this.
A lot of the hip hop.
Yeah, a lot of the not feeling that. Anyway,
that's all right.
That's beside the point.
Yeah.
You agree with me? Quinn Ewers was the best or most productive quarterback on the field today?
Yeah, I would say so. Tua had a lot of incompletions today for the first time. And look, there are a couple of times where he threw it into the ground wisely. Once I know that Bradley Chubb was like on him like a missile. But yeah, Tua did have a lot of incompletes today. Yeah, I would say Ewers was the best quarterback today. I don't know that he did anything great, but he was consistently good. Would you agree with that? I don't know that there were any like great reads or great, he stepped up into the pocket and that was,
yeah, I agree.
He was just consistently good, which, look, you're a rookie 7th round pick. That's a move in the right direction. I have nothing bad to say about Quinn Ewers today. He was good.
No, he was very efficient. I think
he was efficient.
One of the best throws was Zach Wilson down the middle to Nick Westbrook-Akine, close to the goal line for about 20 yards. That was a nice pill up the middle. There was a really, really pretty throw over the middle. I mean, I think each one of them had one or two like throws that stood out, nothing over the top. Zach Wilson had the one pick. It was two, shocker, Willie Gay Jr., who could have had a second pick when he read Zach Wilson never saw him, whatever. He stepped in front of the wide receiver, should have had a second pick, right in his hands, dropped it. The one pick, however, wasn't so much on Zach Wilson as it was on Tanner Conner on a pass that was thrown a little bit behind him, but he, instead of being able to make the catch, which he should be able to make if you're going to be a high-end receiving tight end, ball went off his hands and into the air and right into the arms of Willie Gay Jr. Conner had a lot of receptions today, probably was the most active, including when the Dolphins were in a 2-minute offense. Tua was a quarterback, and I think he completed like 3 or 4 passes, and a couple of those were to Tanner Conner.
Let me say this, and I don't want to, we're talking. I'm going to put a positive spin on this toward the DBs and not a negative spin on pass protection. But we saw some blitzes. We saw some successful blitzes. Yes, a lot. Yesterday, I think was it yesterday the final play where we saw Cornell Armstrong come in like untouched. Today we saw Jordan Colbert come in a couple of times and. Yeah, twice. And these guys are coming off the edge. They're coming up the middle, and they're doing a lot of it on the backup offensive line, as you can tell by the names. Cornell Armstrong and Jordan Colbert, they aren't starters. And so I don't know if this is a pass protection thing or a communication thing, but good for Anthony Weaver. Good for Weave. And we talked to Minka about this after practice today, and Minka was saying, Weave sends guys from all different angles, and you don't know who it's going to be, and they line up in the same spot, so they disguise it very well. And the offense, he said the offense, gets a little frustrated that they don't. He said angst, I believe, is what he said. That you can see the angst with the offense. Alabama education for Minka. Yeah. So it's a nice job by Weave and Jordan Colbert. He's a guy who has flashed a couple of times. John Saunders Jr. also at safety has flashed a couple of times. These young safety, I feel much better about the backup safeties. I've said this than the backup cornerbacks. At least these guys have flashed. Elijah Campbell has played. We saw Ashton Davis out there with the cast on his left foot, the walking boot, rather. I shouldn't say cast, walking boot. And he was riding one of those little scooters that you ride, like, with the Achilles or whatever. But this is not an Achilles injury. The safety position, it's looking better. And we saw those blitzes. So I'm putting a positive spin on it. Advantage defense. Nice job, Weave. Nice job, Jordan Colbert. You made some plays out there. That's a good thing to see.
Yeah, I definitely think the defense had the better of the day. And look, I'm all for blitzing. What the Dolphins can't have is what they had last year when the pass rush wasn't getting there. Their cornerback situation was healthier than it is this year. I mean, blitz away. This is what Brian Flores did when he ran the defense, and what did it do? It helped produce takeaways, which is what was missing from the defense in 2024. The defense was 10th in the NFL in total yards allowed, but they weren't getting takeaways.
But the way this defense, the way the secondary is at corner, I think right now I'm looking heavy zone.
Without question.
Yeah, without question, right? Yeah. So
we'll see some early throws. So that's how you can get some picks.
Yep. So we'll see what Weave does, but I don't see a whole lot of man, and definitely don't see any shadowing the way we saw Ramsey do with DK Metcalf on the positive end and Garrett Wilson on the negative end.
And Marvin Harrison Jr. at times.
Yes, at times.
On the negative end. And we have to mention it again. Oh, my Lord, the flags. Woo!
Oh, yeah, the flags were back.
Even on a play where the highlight might be out there on social media, it was a screen to Jaelan Waddle. Patrick Paul got in front of him and was bumbling down the field, like shoving guys out of the way all the way into the end zone. There was a flag. Patrick Paul was one of the guys who spoke to the media after practice, and I think it was Omar who kind of asked him, like, who was the flag on, and Patrick was like all sheepish, like,
right,
and started laughing, kind of suggesting that he's the one who false started without ever actually saying it. But oh man, a lot of flags. I think there was one for offside, but a whole lot of either, again, because they're just doing the signal with the hand rolling over, which is either illegal formation or illegal procedure. But way too many of those. At some point, I'm going to start getting concerned about that. I'm not at that stage yet because we still haven't even gotten to the joint practices, but there are a lot of them. So any final thoughts, Burke, before we call it a day?
No, not really. I just want to see this offensive line and what's going to happen with them. Are you going to have to go off the roster to get a right tackle, or do you trust who's in camp? If it's weeks and there's speculation that Austin Jackson will be back or could be back for the opener, you shouldn't have to go off roster. It shouldn't be that bad. But we'll see what their approach is.
And, of course, this is where we point out that the Cowboys apparently are signing Lyle Collins, former starter. I think he's been out of the NFL for a bit. Maybe this is something Dolphins perhaps should have investigated before. Again, it's easy to play the results now in the aftermath of the Austin Jackson injury. So, anyway, that's going to do it. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. He is Chris Perkins from the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Check out his fine work at sunsentinel.com. Check out my fine work at MiamiDolphinsOnSI.com. We're going to do this again tomorrow. Dolphins are back at practice again at the Baptist Health Training Complex, and we'll be back to recap it all. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day.